Media Minutes. This is a communication training series that just goes into the basics of church communication. So we have with us here today, for those who don't know me, my name is Paula Moore. I'm the communication director at the Kentucky Tennessee Conference. But we have with us also some people from the Georgia-Cumberland Conference that we're so happy to be working here together. We have Nathan Signer. He's the communication director for Georgia-Cumberland. And then we have Rachel Bieber, who is the communication marketing assistant director. So thank you for being here. So if you have been joining us on our previous series, we've talked about social media, we've talked about graphic design, we've talked about some PR thing as well. And today it's all about live streaming. It's about lights, camera, evangelism. And so I don't know how you feel about live streaming. Personally, I get very intimidated by it. But hopefully we can all learn something here together today. We want to encourage you, if at any point during this live stream you have any questions, just drop them down in the comments. I will try to get through your questions and give the best information available. But without further ado, let's do our video.
Strategies to amplify the gospel's spread. Today's episode will explore the game-changing impact of technical art. Welcome to Media Minutes, a series that equips your ministry with the latest tools and strategies to amplify the gospel's spread. Today's episode will explore the game-changing impact of technical arts and how it can revolutionize your ministry's reach and influence. In the digital age, merely having an online presence isn't enough, as your content competes with numerous other online and traditional media channels. According to YouTube stats, there are around 3.4 million new videos uploaded to YouTube every day. Staying ahead of the curve and finding creative ways to engage your audience is crucial. However, to effectively communicate your message to a broader audience, ensuring that your product looks and sounds impeccable is essential. So let's dive into the power of technical arts and discover how it can significantly enhance your ministry's influence. Hi, I'm Cameron Reel, Media Specialist at Georgia-Cumberland Conference, and I'm excited to share with you tips and tricks for taking your live stream from mediocre to top-notch. You might be wondering, how do you achieve that polished, professional look in your church videos or live streams? Well, here are some tools and tips to help you achieve that goal. Let's begin. First, let's start with the background. One of the challenges we often face when live streaming is dealing with a distracting background. When live streaming at church, ensure engaging visuals that don't distract from the message. Keep the background simple by creating a blurred effect through distance or shallow depth of field. This can be achieved by keeping the speaker or podium far enough away from the background or back of the stage to create a blurred background effect. By doing this, the focus remains on the speaker and the message being delivered, rather than on a distracting background. You can also use color contrast to highlight the subject and minimize distractions. Your goal is to create a visually consistent and engaging stream that supports the message being shared. Now that we have a basic understanding of applying background to your live streams, let's talk about the impact of color temperature on the overall mood of your services. Some churches opt for warm color temperatures in their live streams, while others prefer cooler temperatures. Warm color temperatures, typically found in incandescent lighting with a yellow and red hue at around 3200 Kelvin, can create a cozy and inviting feel. On the other hand, cooler color temperatures, such as this at 6500 Kelvin, are somewhere around bluer hues, similar to sunlight coming through a window. This creates a more dramatic and cool ambiance. Selecting an inappropriate color temperature can significantly impact the desired atmosphere of your live stream. If you make the wrong choice, your live stream may appear unprofessional or uninteresting, and fail to achieve the intended impact. Therefore, it's best to use a color meter for accurate temperature measurement. A color meter is a tool used to measure the color temperature of your lighting. Finally, when setting your color temperature, it is very important to prioritize skin tones. Prioritizing for skin tones helps the speaker look natural in the live stream. Think of lighting as the heart of the live stream. It is an essential element of video production as it helps to create a church service's mood, atmosphere, and visual appeal. Proper lighting allows the viewer to see the speaker, their expressions and actions clearly, and enhances the overall quality and professionalism of the stream. And this can all be done by using the many different lighting setups such as key light, fill light, backlight, background light, and others. Lighting can also be used to convey an emotion or establish a brand identity, and can be manipulated to create a sense of continuity throughout your church service. In summary, lighting is a critical aspect of video production, and paying attention to it can elevate the quality and impact of your video. More importantly than that, keeping your lights consistent should always be your priority. Consistency is not only important with light, but also with most other aspects of a production, live or staged. It can help ensure that viewers watching the stream have a seamless experience and are not distracted by sudden changes in lighting or camera angles. This can be done by ensuring that the stage is properly exposed and that the brightness and color temperature are consistent throughout. Overexposure of your speaker can result in a washed-out appearance when they step into the light, while underexposure can make them appear too dark when they step away from the light. Uniform lighting coverage can help you achieve the desired effect. To accomplish this, it is essential to use lighting fixtures with similar bulbs of the same color temperature and angle them consistently for each stream. Another important factor for creating a top-notch live stream is camera consistency. Now, we'll talk more about cameras later, but here's some advice to ensure good camera consistency. Use a tripod. This guarantees that the camera is always in the same position and angle during each stream. It's also important to make sure that all the cameras being used have the same settings and are placed at the same height and angle. The ideal position for your cameras is close to eye level. To keep the lighting and camera positions consistent, it's best to create a detailed plan and stick to it for every stream. This plan should include the positions of the cameras and lighting, as well as any adjustments that may need to be made during the stream. By paying attention to these details and following a consistent plan, the church's live stream can have a polished and captivating appearance for all viewers. Shaping and controlling light is one thing you have to consider if you want a professional-looking live stream. If you're not familiar with good lighting, you would think that all you have to do is turn on the lights and your stage is set. However, that is not the case. In order to appropriately manage your lighting, it's important to avoid highlighting screens, first rows of seats, or any other areas you don't want to draw attention to. Some ways to do this is by utilizing barn doors, black wrap, or diffusion. Our eyes are naturally drawn to bright areas on the stage, so we want to avoid unnecessary distractions and lead the audience to what is important, like musicians or speakers on the stage. When live streaming church services, audio is just as important as video for creating an immersive experience. Investing in quality audio equipment is essential for consistent, high-quality audio, if possible. Prioritize a separate live stream mix or an audio operator to ensure what you hear is what's being translated to the live stream. Add audience mics to enhance the service for those joining over a live stream, and normalize audio levels to ensure consistency in volume throughout the service. Poor audio quality can detract from the professionalism of your video and turn off viewers, while high-quality audio can elevate the overall quality of your content and enhance the viewing experience. Finally, as promised, let's talk about the camera. Without cameras, you have no ability to live stream. The camera has a lot of different and difficult elements to mess around with, but here are the basic things you need to know and ensure are right before you hit that record button. If you're using a multi-camera setup, to keep it consistent, make sure you have the same model camera across all your cameras when streaming. Next, have multiple batteries or have an AC adapter to plug the cameras directly into a power source. This ensures your live stream won't cut off in the middle of the sermon. There are 3 key areas we want to pay attention to. First, let's start with the exposure. Make sure your exposure is correct by adjusting the aperture, or the iris of the camera. Shutter speed. The lower your shutter speed is, the more motion blur you'll get, and the higher, it'll give you less motion blur. And the ISO, and that's how sensitive the camera is to light. Next, focus. Make sure your camera's focus is set correctly for the shot, whether manual or automatic. Double check that the focus is sharp and accurate. Finally, camera stability. There is nothing worse than watching a live stream that is shaky or tilted. To prevent this from happening, make sure you are using a tripod with a smooth, fluid head. Choosing a stable and high-quality tripod to ensure your camera is secure and steady. To recap, creating a professional and engaging live stream for church services requires attention to several important elements. These include creating a simple and non-distracting background, choosing the appropriate color temperature for lighting, using consistent lighting setups, maintaining camera consistency, shaping and controlling light, and remembering visuals are not the only thing to pay attention to in your live stream. Also, you should invest in quality audio equipment like a mixer board that will help enhance your live stream experience for your audience. Keeping everything consistent across the board and sticking to a solid plan every week are ways that you can have a solid live stream setup. Thanks for watching Media Minutes. I'm Cameron Reel, and remember, just being online isn't enough. Let's thrive in creating professional-looking live streams.
Cameron Reel. He was going to be our host for today, but he's unfortunately sick. So we have Nathan taking over for him, and he's also very knowledgeable on the topic. So I'm excited that he's going to be here with us. And again, we want to encourage you, if you have any questions, any comments, like let us know so that we can bring that up in the live stream. We are happy to answer all your questions here. And we already have actually a few questions that have come in. We're going to start, Nathan. I hope that's good with you. And this one is a really good one because I feel like, yeah, it happens to everybody. I think it happened to us at the beginning of this live stream. What's the best way to handle technical difficulties during a live stream without panicking?
Well, we've all had those moments, right? The first thing is prayer is important. If something is just really going down and not working, if you need to pause for a moment of prayer, pause for a moment of prayer, say a prayer under your breath as you try to tackle the issue. Secondly, a pet peeve, and this doesn't address how to get through the technical issue, but a pet peeve is to blame it on the devil. Oh, the devil's at work trying to stop this live stream. Sometimes that is the case, but let's just say what it is. Sometimes technology doesn't cooperate and do what we want it to do. But how do you deal with it directly? Number one is the person in charge, sort of the technical director, really needs to be a person that handles stress and can think clearly in high pressure situations. You don't want the person that just throws up their hands and walks out and I don't know what to do, because that's not what you want in a leader. So your leader, your technical director, really needs to be somebody that can think on their feet through whatever happens. Secondly, you want that person to have experience. That experience helps them identify the most likely issues and how to troubleshoot that and get it going. Thirdly, have a plan. Think through some of the situations you might have. Does a camera go bad and not work? Do you lose audio? Is there a delay on stage and you don't know what to do? Do you lose internet and your stream just goes down? So how do you address each one of those different issues? Do you have clear communication with the different people that you need to have communication with? Do you have somebody monitoring your live stream? So anytime in our conference that we are having an event, even right now, Rachel, in this particular case, is monitoring our live stream on all of our platforms to make sure that it is going through as we want it to. So do you have somebody monitoring the live stream? Secondly, that person monitoring the live stream also helps engage with the audience, monitor the comments to be sure that your comments are productive to what you are streaming. You don't want somebody spamming you, saying, "Hey, I'm in Africa and I need a donation." Just get rid of those comments, or negative comments that are just inappropriate. Period. So you want to have somebody monitoring your live stream. Thirdly, as they're monitoring, they can also pick up if there's issues such as audio. So 5-10 minutes, how many people have been listening to a live stream and it goes on and you can't hear, or the video is really terrible? It's like, hey, is anyone paying attention? Having that person monitoring is your first line of defense, so to speak. So when there's something that happens, they can then communicate back to the on-site production team. Thirdly, additionally, have some go-to messages. If there's a technical issue, that person monitoring can post that onto the live stream and say, "We're experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by, and we'll be right back." Having those either preloaded, ready to go, or just being aware to post that, those are all ways to help address technical issues as they come up. We don't know what it's going to be, but as we plan, hopefully that prepares us for the eventualities that might come up.
All right. Yeah, I think that's very important. Being prepared is always key. You want to be prepared when you're in your program live, but you also want to be prepared when you are online. We have another question here. I think Cameron talked a lot about audio, and so I think this is very relevant, and I'm sure other people have this question as well. And I've actually combined two questions here. It says, what if you only have one audio board for both house and streaming? And then how do you normalize audio?
That's a very important question. And you mentioned Cameron. I'm going to give a shout out to Cameron. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to be here today. A little bit of illness took him out. He really wanted to be here. But if you have any questions, you can feel free to email him, call our office, and he'll be glad to help you afterwards as well. But how do you address this? I'm going to handle the easy side first. Many churches are switching to digital boards. And digital boards give us so many options that we didn't used to have. So the way to set up a stream audio and house audio is to run your stream audio through a separate sub out. That allows you to mix that stream separately. So then with the digital board, you can connect to those through a computer or through an iPad or some other device remotely, setting that digital board up onto your network. And an operator in another room listening through headphones or speakers can then monitor and adjust the levels. For those in our conference who went to our audio training earlier this year, you remember post-fader versus pre-fader. Post-fader leaves the group, the sub out, in relation to the main mix. And so by going through and adjusting, it gets a little bit technical. We won't go too deep into it, but that's sort of the basics of it. By setting up a sub out, you can have everything the same level, and then independently adjust each channel as necessary, as the case may be. So what's a use case for that? You might have an acoustic guitar, for example. In the sanctuary, you might not need as much acoustic guitar in relation to everybody else. So the main mix, they're mixing it all, and the acoustic guitar is there. It's going up and down as need be for the house, but streaming needs a little bit more because you don't have that acoustic ambient sound. And so the stream operator can go in and turn up the amount going to the sub out on the guitar. Another option might be a piano. You might not need any piano mics in the sanctuary, but you do in the live stream. So you can mic up the piano, run that through your sub out, but don't send that channel to your stereo out. The out's going to your speakers, but it'll still go to your live stream. So without getting too much deeper into that, that's sort of how you can do that. How do you normalize it now? Drop in some compressors. So you send a compressor, on the output of that sub out, put a brick wall limiter on it, and that will keep everything from distorting. So those of you who have been around this space for a while, remember analog, you could go up and down and you didn't really distort. In digital, there's a hard wall. And so by setting that brick wall limiter, you won't go past that level and keep everything from distorting. You can also add compressors on individual channels, so maybe vocalists who are very dynamic. You can set those, and that will help normalize your audio. A pastor is a great one to normalize as well. Just to help, a pastor is a good one to compress as well, just to help normalize everything. Now, if you don't have a digital board, the principles are the same by using sub outs. The principle is the same by using a compressor, but you have to get an external compressor typically and put that in line to help normalize your audio. So hopefully that gives you some basis to start on. And if you have any further questions, feel free to call our office or take from what we've just informed you and go to Google and start searching.
Yes, and I'll say with a lot of this equipment, it's always a lot of research. Like I say, they intimidated me a lot, all this equipment, and I am in communication, so don't worry about all of that. Just research, watch YouTube videos. The internet is going to be your best friend. Okay, we have here another question. And I mean, I've related to this many times. Sometimes you're out doing something and then your Wi-Fi just kind of cuts out or something like that. So the question says, our church sometimes has bandwidth issues with either lowers the quality or interrupts the live stream. Are there any solutions to overcome poor bandwidth? So that's unfortunately common.
It's less common of an issue than it used to be, but it can still happen. Whether you're a portable church and can't spec higher internet, or whether you're in a rural area and just can't get good internet, even people sometimes with Starlink, that might be an option in some places, might not have the bandwidth. So again, we'll try to keep this condensed, but there is the ability to bond your internet stream. So that requires multiple internet connection devices. So you might have multiple cell phones with Wi-Fi. You might have the in-house Wi-Fi and then a cell phone, or any combination up to the different quantities that the bonding service provides. It streams over that bonding, goes to another destination, and that destination then combines all the bonded data and then pushes that out to your platforms, your YouTube, your Facebook, your other deliverable channels. So you need a modem or encoder, that will do that. One example is Teradek. They make a bonding encoder that supports 5 to 7 different devices, and several of those being hotspots from phones. That pushes to a service, and their services start at around $50 a month. And so you do pay for it. But if you're in that environment and want to overcome bandwidth issues, that really is one of the better ways at this point that is most compatible with multiple destinations. And that service will also stream to your multiple destinations. So some of you might be using Restream or StreamYard, or trying to set up different destinations inside OBS, whatever your setup is. Those bonding services will often take care of that multiple destination deliverable for you.
All right, thank you for that answer. Again, we want to encourage you, if you have any questions, to send them our way. Nathan is doing an amazing job at answering all of them. And here's one. I think this one we actually get quite often. I'm sure in your office, Nathan, you get it, and we also get it a lot here in our office in Kentucky, Tennessee. But are there any copyright issues to consider when streaming music, hymns, or YouTube clips during the service?
Yes, and yes. I can't stress copyright enough. As a creative myself, it is an area that resonates with me, but it is also, for me, I see it as a moral and ethical issue. As Christians, we should be setting good examples and using content fairly, and recognizing and paying the people appropriately who have created this content for us. That includes songs, that includes pictures that we might use in our pre-service countdowns or our post-service. That might be videos that we use during the service. It might be PowerPoint slides that the pastor uses. If you have questions on where to get graphics and that type of content, I'd recommend you to go back to our social media or graphic design presentations. Several great resources. Just quickly, Canva, Pexels, and Unsplash are several of those. But yes, we need licenses. When it comes to lyrics, that's the most common that churches are used to. CCLI is your friend. Many of your churches are already familiar with CCLI for projecting your song lyrics. They also have a level of license for streaming that covers your streaming performance and projecting the lyrics on your live stream. And they also have another level above that that will also allow you to stream the master tracks from musicians, or if you need a little extra, maybe you're missing a keyboard one week and you just use the keyboard tracks. There's services that provide those. That gives you the rights to stream those as well. One of the things to remember with live stream is it is considered a broadcast medium, and so a lot of the fair use in person rights that we have inside of a sanctuary do not carry over to a live stream. It is a broadcast medium, and so we have to have the appropriate rights for that. If you stream to YouTube, and this is YouTube specific, ASCAP and YouTube have come together and created some relationships. Now you say, what is ASCAP? ASCAP is a performing rights organization that handles the copyright for many of the musicians. And so if a song isn't covered by CCLI and it's covered by ASCAP, you still don't have to worry. YouTube recognizes that this is a licensed song, and they will then monetize that video, and a portion of the monetization will go to pay the performer. And so that is a YouTube specific channel only. Facebook is very particular on copyrighted content. Even if you have CCLI, they don't have a way of recognizing that. And so churches sometimes get their live stream stopped, and there's not much you can do about it right now. So a lot of people just decide to go to YouTube for that reason. So copyright is important. Pay attention to it. It is up to the responsibility of the church who is streaming the content and also the presenter to be sure they have the proper rights for the content that is streamed. So check and verify. And we just thank you for your attention to that detail because it is an important aspect of streaming. And Powell, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that. But copyright's important.
No, I just say, yeah. And also that includes images that you show on your live stream.
Yeah.
You don't want to get a fine from some kind of lawyer saying you've been using copyrighted images on your programs. We have here another question.
Add in, a lot of churches, sometimes they'll get requests to play a YouTube video. YouTube videos, YouTube does their terms of service do not allow YouTube videos to be played in church, let alone rebroadcast through your YouTube channel. And so YouTube videos are a big no-no when it comes to streaming and showing in your church. Try to find some other places for those illustrations. If a pastor wants to use a video from a commercially produced movie or other videos, CCLI also has a companion license called CVLI that covers videos. And again, you have to check the different databases to see what's covered, but that is an option as well for videos that you might want to be showing in church.
Well, thank you for that information. We have another question here, and this might be more of a personal preference, but do you prefer any particular platforms for streaming and archiving recordings?
I'll confess, I used to not like YouTube for streaming. And part of that was because in the early days of YouTube, they would throw ads at the beginning or during the live streams. They've realized that was disruptive and they no longer do that. I personally think YouTube is a great platform for streaming and delivering content. Why? Because that is where the majority of people are. When we were evaluating the video channels that the Georgia-Cumberland conference was on a few years ago, Cameron did this research, and Google is the second, at the time at least, the second most trafficked search engine. I'm sorry, YouTube is the second most trafficked search engine. And so that just shows that's where people are. And so if that's where people are and they're searching for content, they're more likely to find it there than if you decide you want to go to some other platform and host it all there. You're relying on other means of getting there than where people already are. Additionally, YouTube app is on so many devices, phones, Apple TV, Roku devices, smart TVs. And so it's a platform that people are naturally going to and used to browsing. And so being where the masses are just helps get content out to the people. Do be mindful, though, that if you have a certain number of copyright strikes, and those are where you've just completely violated and not paying attention to copyright notices and warnings that they've given you, not counting the ones that are covered by ASCAP, you can have your channel shut down and you will not have access to your content. And so if the archive content that you're wanting to archive, the church wants to hold onto and be sure they always have access to it, record a local copy, which I recommend to do anyways, in case you lose bandwidth, you're not relying on YouTube to store the video forever. Record locally and keep that file on a local hard drive somewhere. Hard drive space is cheap these days. A terabyte or two will last you several years probably in a church. So as a deliverable, YouTube is a great channel for archiving and making available to anybody. Leave them on YouTube. If you want a local copy for historical reasons, keep a file local. Those are my go-tos just because I've seen success in them.
All right, thank you. We have another question. This is a follow-up to the previous question about copyright, especially when it comes to lyrics. And it says, what do you do when a hymn in the hymnal does not come up with in CCLI? How can I use it if I can find the copyright info? That's a really good question, actually.
It's a great question, and unfortunately, it happens more often than we might like. If the song is in public domain, and you can tell that by at the top of the hymnal, it says who wrote it, and it'll often say public domain underneath it. If it's in public domain, you are free to use it. The copyrights have expired on that song. If it is not in public domain, legally, you really can't stream it. And that's just the realities that we face. CCLI does not cover every single song out there. So that's sort of the environment that we have to live in.
All right. Another question that we have here is, what software do you recommend to create content for worship lyric videos or lower thirds? And that's really good because we have lower thirds, it makes your live stream more engaging.
Yeah, lower third videos, I typically don't make videos of because it doesn't give you a lot of flexibility. So we talk about technical issues, so to speak. What happens if somebody isn't on the platform or they add somebody? You don't have time to be making new videos. And so I recommend making lower third graphics live in the software that you're using. Different setups are different. If you're using something like Wirecast, you might be using built-in lower thirds. If you're using a Blackmagic switcher, you might be importing those as images. If you're using a more advanced setup with Chroma Keying or Luma Keying, maybe you'll use ProPresenter or Keynote or PowerPoint even can do the same thing. And so just having those so I can type in the text really quick, throw it up on the screen, just gives me more flexibility. For worship video, again, there's sort of two different ways we can talk about this. If this is videos during your song service, then a software like Proclaim or ProPresenter, Easy Worship, those are really the way to do that. Don't try to get too complicated and really produce stuff. If it's for pre-service or post-service, then I'd recommend using something like DaVinci Resolve, Adobe Premiere, or Final Cut, Apple Final Cut. Each one has their pros and cons. DaVinci is free, but it has a pretty steep learning curve. Adobe, if you've already got Adobe subscription, it's in there. Final Cut is a pay once and keep it. Canva can make some videos. That's not really a great video creation tool. If you need to make some short video announcements, that might work. But for real video content creation, I'd check out DaVinci Resolve, Adobe Premiere, or Apple Final Cut. Can't hear you.
All right, thank you. All right, there we go. We got it fixed. No panicking in this live stream. The next question is a bit of more of a technical one. And it says, what is a preferred way to stream using OBS or a switcher like ATEM Mini? So actually, those words are very new. So maybe you explain it to the audience before you give the answer.
Yeah, that's great to provide that context. These are some loaded questions. Keep them coming. So OBS, it's open broadcasting software. It's open source. It's free to use. There's other ones like XSplit and whatnot that provide software-based video switching. Whereas ATEM Mini or other broadcast switchers by Sony or Panasonic or Data Video, there's a Roland, there's several different manufacturers of hardware switchers, are the hardware side of it. So again, trying not to get too technical on it, software switchers require devices, capture devices, for each video input. And so if you have a 3-camera setup, you need 3 capture devices to take your HDMI signal or SDI signal to bring it into the camera. There's also NDI, which is a newer technology, and so that goes over your network. That's a whole nother way of doing things. If you're not doing IMAG, as in projecting that into your sanctuary or into your overflow room or fellowship hall, mother's room, and trying to sync that to audio, sort of having that live, NDI is an option, but there's built-in latency over NDI. And so it's not a great option if you're needing live audio and syncing or program syncing of your video cameras with what's happening in the room. So on the software side, you need those encoders. You also need a powerful computer because you're ingesting a lot of data. Each video camera is sending, if you're wanting to be in HD, 1920 by 1080, there's a lot of data the computer has to process. And then those software programs often also export or encode it for your live stream. So again, there's a lot of data processing going on. And while computers are getting faster and faster, cameras are also getting more and more powerful and sending higher quality video. So you really reach a point where software becomes very limiting. So you have to look at your growth trajectory and where you want to go for the church. Is a software option right where we are and allow us to grow and get better? A hardware version, you get a video switcher for however many inputs you want, and you can plug into it till it's full. So you get an 8-input video switcher, for example, and right now you only have 3 cameras. You get a 4th camera, the only cost is going to be for that camera and the appropriate cables. You don't need additional encoders, and those encoders can be $100+ each. Additionally, hardware switchers are designed to handle video. That is what they do, purpose-built. And so in my experience, hardware switchers, provide better growth and provide more options, whereas software switchers are less expensive, but can become very limiting very quickly. Additionally, on the quality side, hardware is typically going to trump software, again, because they're purpose-built. And so the output from a hardware switcher is oftentimes going to be better than the output from a software video switching setup. So try not to get too technical, but that's sort of the two and why one is often a better option for churches. But you really have to, I always recommend to churches, buy for where you want to go within the next few years, not for where you are at now. So you have growth potential.
That's such good advice, and it comes to anything related to communication, not just live streaming. We have just 2 questions left here. If somebody else has any questions that you'd like to ask before we end the live stream, please send them in the comments. But if not, we'll go through the last 2 questions left. The first one says, how can we involve remote members in service, like reading scripture or giving testimonies? That's really good.
Yeah, another loaded question. If you are in a small group, a Bible study, a midweek service, and you're sort of in a Zoom environment, have at it. Even inside Zoom, there's delay, but everyone's gotten comfortable with that Zoom environment. For a church service, there really isn't a good way to do that live. Broadcast networks spend a lot of money and have a lot of infrastructure to have remote correspondence. And even those systems, there's often delay. And you hear that. All right, welcome so-and-so, wherever you're at. They can be the next block even. Doesn't really matter. There's just built-in latency when you try to do all this kind of stuff. However, there might be special circumstances or programs that you do want to include somebody that just can't come to the live service. Maybe you're having a 50-year anniversary for the church, a homecoming weekend, and there's a member who just can't make it out of her house or their house. And maybe you can go to their place and record their testimony, their historical perspective, whatever it may be, record that and then play that back live from your host venue, your sanctuary, or wherever you're having your service. Or maybe there's other types of content. You're having a baptism and a family member can't be there, and you want to provide some input from them. Have that pre-record that and then show that live. Another way of doing that helps to bring in some engagement with your online audience is if you're having a opportunity where in-person members can speak, maybe your person up front, whether it's prayer requests or whether it's other type of content, maybe they're watching the comments. And so when Sister Brown puts in her prayer request, the person up at the front also recognizes that how you handle that in your service is going to vary, whatever is appropriate. Maybe it's at the end. We've heard these. And I also want to recognize Sister Brown and her prayer request for her daughter who's going through whatever the request is. And they can bring that up on their phone by watching the comments that are coming through. So live video of offsite participants is really challenging, but there are ways to integrate depending on your purpose for bringing in those people. We want to include those who can't be there. It's how do we do it that is not disruptive and meaningful so that everyone who is worshiping with us in person and online can be a part.
That's really good advice. And I think it's important to remember that your online audience is not a secondary audience. They're just part of your normal audience. So just keeping that one-on-one interaction with them. Do not forget about them because they want to be engaged as well. That's why they're joining the live stream. All right, so we have just one final question, and then we're going to start wrapping up. But I think this is a really good one because I think maybe church members can disagree on this, and it's good to have that talk with your church, with those who are involved in this aspect of planning. What are some recommendations on including service preliminaries during the live stream? So I'm guessing like announcements or, things that are a lot more personal to the church. Is there any advice that you have on that?
Well, again, another loaded question. Service preliminaries is something that a lot of churches handle, and people do not come to church to listen to announcements. And so maybe this is an opportunity where you can not just be in a back room or in the back corner of the sanctuary as a tech person. Maybe there's an opportunity for you or another leader to really create some inroads and relationships with the worship team, the elder, the pastor, the other worship coordinators, whoever it may be, and come alongside them as a service leader. And where does that go? As you can have conversations with them, you can understand what they are wanting to accomplish, and they can understand what you are wanting to accomplish for what translates well to the online audience. You can bring that perspective to the conversation. If you're not part of the conversation, you just have to go along with it, right? So if you can be part of that conversation, that's a great place to start. Then you can just bring up, we're sitting through 15 minutes of announcements. It's for AY this afternoon. It's for the fellowship meal that's happening this afternoon. It's for all this list of stuff that most likely your online audience isn't going to be paying attention, isn't relevant to them, because if they were there, they would also be going to AY potentially. So really determining what is important to your live stream and how do you create a flow of service that isn't produced, so to speak, because some people shy away from the word producing TV now, but is conducive to a great worship experience for all those involved. And so we can go on a whole other conversation about how to define what makes a good, what should be announced from the front. but just really trying to limit, I would say, the in-person relevant content only to maybe pre-live stream. Maybe you don't start live streaming from the minute the in-person service starts. We have done that before in some of the services we've streamed. Is there was content we couldn't stream, and we had conversations with the leadership team beforehand, and found out how to make the service feel as natural as possible by maybe interjecting a song and using that as our input, or maybe a welcome, and have the announcements and then the welcome. We start with the welcome. So just really trying to fine tune that and talk through that with your worship team is the best way to go about that, and listening and thinking about what is important for each of your audiences.
All right. Thank you for all that information, and thank you for everyone who has to send in their questions. If you have any further questions that you maybe come up with later on, or just some specific issues to your churches that you'd like some help with, you can contact Sander. You can go with Nathan in his email, or you can also contact me. This is my email. We do hope to hear from you. We're here to help you. We're here to be a resource for you. So please do not hesitate to reach out. And I guess we just want to say thank you for those who have joined either just one live stream or all the live streams that we've done this year. We like to get your feedback because we want to be able to serve you better. We like to do better. So if you can just scan the QR code, or if you want to tell us how we did, how we can improve, please let us know. We love your feedback. I think hopefully this has been useful for you, and hopefully we can continue on serving this kind of content for you. And Nathan, I believe you have an announcement as well, specifically to Georgia-Cumberland. You have a very special training program coming up, so I'll let you do that announcement.
Yeah, and before we transition to that, I'd just like to thank everyone who's been involved. We didn't show Xander today, but he's joined the Kentucky-Tennessee team since we first started these back early in the year. So thanks for Xander for coming in and helping us out when Cameron wasn't able to be here today. Also, a special shout out to Cameron, who's really helped pull together these trainings that you've been able to watch and that we've been able to make available on our YouTube channels. And a shout out to, of course, Southern Adventist University. Fun fact, everyone involved in these trainings is either a student or has been a student, an alumni of the School of Journalism and Communication at Southern Adventist University. And so we want to recognize them. Just last weekend, there was a convention, and I'm deviating a little bit and taking a little bit of time, but it's worth mentioning.
Go for it.
That there was a convention for Adventist communicators across North America, and this training series won Best in Class for student videos at that award ceremony. And so Southern, who is not represented here in person, but they had a lot to do with these trainings as well. So we want to recognize and give a shout out to them.
Yes.
Now, this training in January, it's being presented by Georgia-Cumberland Conference, but if you're in Kentucky 10 and want to drive on down, you are more than welcome. We do have people drive from across our entire conference, and some of you in Kentucky 10 are just as close, if not closer. So you are welcome to attend. We're going to be talking about online presence. We're going to be talking about specifically church social media. There's a lot of talk about digital evangelism, and that's important to digital evangelists, and there's a lot of people talking about that. This presentation is going to be really talking about how to optimize church social media channels. We're also going to be talking about church websites, some tools and important information. Church websites are not dead. And so we are tentatively scheduling that for January 27. That is here at our office. That is an all-day event. We provide lunch. It is a free training. All you got to do is sign up. And so how many of you are interested? Let's see it in the chats. How many of you are interested in learning more about this training as we finalize a few of the remaining details? So we had
question wasn't to me, but I am interested.
Come on down.
Not too far from Nashville.
We'll send an email to everyone who is registered for this event when we have those details lined up. Just a few remaining details we're trying to confirm before we put it out there. So we're looking forward to that. It's an extension of these trainings. We really want to resource our churches. That is the front line of ministry in each of our communities. And so however we can help them, help you, that is what we are trying to accomplish. So tentatively, January 27, Georgia-Cumberland Conference office. It's a Sunday. So small churches who are,
Oh, Nathan, just to clarify, it's 27 or 28?
sorry, 28.
We have
Sorry,
28. Okay,
28.
great. No worries.
That's why we have people here checking me. I've had that date in my mind for whatever reason. Then it's 28. Sunday.
It happens
28th.
to all of us.
It is on a Sunday, so that those who are in churches
Mhm.
and have small teams don't have to leave their church and leave their church trying
We
to
don't
figure
want to
out,
leave your church without a live stream service. So,
exactly.
yeah.
So we want you to help grow your teams, but January 28th, free, Georgia-Cumberland Conference Office.
All right. Well, thank you so much again, Nathan, for all the information that you shared today. I know live streaming is a challenging field. I get scared by it personally. And thank you everyone who joined today to watch the live stream. Again, if you could just scan the QR code so we can do the survey. We love to hear from you. We love to learn more from you. And we hope that, we can help you and, your ministry. We cannot emphasize enough how much we admire all of you for taking the role of communication in your church. Communication is so important, is key to every ministry. So thank you for taking that leadership role. All right. Well, I hope everyone has a good evening and a good rest of your day.